What is up, Optimal Health Warriors, and welcome to episode 45 of the Optimal Health Show, Ketogenic Diet, A New Hope for Cancer. Our special warrior guest is Patricia. She is a committed member of the Nutritional Therapists of Ireland. She has her own unique personal history with cancer, and she has taken the ketogenic diet and applied it in her life, and the benefits, well, they speak for themselves. But before we actually get into today's podcast, this week's warrior quote. It does not matter how slowly you go, so long as you do not stop. Confucius. Now, there's so much wisdom to be gained from this simple quote. In today's day and age, we're always looking for this instant gratification, looking to win the war in one big scoop, when in reality, it's the compound effect. It's the domino effect, meaning what are you doing on a day-to-day basis that's going to pay off in 5 years, that's going to pay off in 10 years. And your health is exactly like this. It's not about getting a six-pack today. It's not about, trying to do your max deadlift today. No, it's about what types of exercises or modalities you're doing today so that maybe 1 year from now, you're going to be able to pull a 500-pound deadlift. Maybe 2 years from now, you'll be able to run your ultra marathon. So always remember, the compound effect is the most powerful and proficient way to get to your goals. Now, without further ado, please sit back and relax and enjoy today's amazing podcast with Patricia Daly. Hey, Patricia, welcome to the Optimal Health Show. How you doing?
Hi, Amir. Yeah, great to see you. Great to meet you. Great to be here.
Likewise. And the reason I have you on the show today is we're going to be talking about the ketogenic diet, the ins, the outs, and how we can actually apply it. And you yourself have a unique approach. And the reason why you have you on the show is you have your own book about ketogenic diets. Now, I just want the audience to know, why did you actually write this book in the first place? Because there's so many other books around, this ketogenic diet from this author, that author. Why did you decide that you needed to write a book?
Yeah, I mean, basically, I have my own history of cancer, and the ketogenic diet was a huge help. So with me, basically what happened, I did go through radiotherapy twice, and I had I still have a melanoma in my eye. And so basically for me, it was the option of having lifelong injections, Avastin injections into the eye, or finding an alternative. So my oncologist in the UK was pushing for Avastin. My consultant here in Dublin, thank goodness, gave me a bit of time to explore options. And that's why I came across the ketogenic diet. And I was already training to become a nutritional therapist at the time. So I did look into all the different approaches. I read loads and loads, especially also from all the German researchers, because I speak German, I'm Swiss, and so I did quite a lot of research initially there before Professor Seyfried's book was published in September 2012. And what really bugged me most was basically that it was very, very heavy dairy based, and so the dairy industry is obviously it's huge. In Germany and in Switzerland, and there was a lot of it. And I myself, I'm dairy intolerant. I can tolerate butter, but milk is obviously a no-no anyway on ketogenic diets. But I do struggle with dairy. And what I also found was that a lot of websites focusing on the ketogenic diet, they were focusing on weight loss, or they were designed for bodybuilders, or epilepsy obviously is another big subject for the ketogenic diet. So it just didn't quite hit my own personal sweet spot. So basically, which is a bit ironic, but yeah, it just didn't do anything for me. I tried different approaches and found it quite hard to follow, and sometimes also hard to be in nutritional ketosis. So that's why I basically started just tweaking and checking what worked and what didn't work. And also, I think food intolerances are a really big thing for most cancer patients, especially when they go through treatment. Lactose would be one of the big things. Well, lactose and fructose, there is research into it that some specific chemotherapy drugs, not all of them, but quite a lot of them, they can cause temporary lactose intolerance. So that was the other reason then why I started looking into alternatives. And also what I found is that you really, for a ketogenic diet, you really, really need meal plans. And that's what I then found when I started implementing the diet with clients. What I found really the biggest lack in literature and on the web, that there's tons of recipes. I mean, there's no problem that you don't have any problem finding recipes, but it's just putting it together in a weekly plan without running into nutritional deficiencies, and with just really covering all aspects of nutrition. And I know the epileptic ketogenic world is very heavy dairy based as well. And so that was the main thing. And talking to Miriam as well and Ellen Davis, we all found that that's what really is needed. It's an option for cancer patients. Yeah.
Now, how did you actually program the ketogenic diet without dairy? Like, what is your version of the ketogenic diet?
My version is to use all the sort. I do use a little bit of butter sometimes, but I always give the option to replace the butter for people who really want to be completely dairy free. I have a lot of breast cancer patients who say, I'm just not comfortable with any amount of dairy. And I do think if a client, whether the research is conclusive or not, at the moment, there is a debate going on about dairy and cancer. If somebody feels clearly uncomfortable eating a certain food, I don't say no, research says it's actually safe for you. So I completely respect that decision. So I just started replacing dairy with other sources of fat, and like coconut, for instance, and olive. And I do use small amounts of nuts and seeds. And that's the other thing that I found with a lot of ketogenic diets. It's I always say a lot of people go completely nuts on the nuts.
They do go nuts on the nuts. I personally went nuts on the nuts, and it caused problems for me.
Exactly, yeah. And that's one of the mistakes I made. I completely overdid it on nuts and also seeds, and I started to become intolerant to them, actually. So lots of digestive complaints. And I see it with a lot of people following the paleo diet as well. I recommend just having 3 to 4 handfuls of nuts a week, and a lot of people have that a day. It's more for cancer. I think it's super important because of the omega-6, omega-3 balance, and that's really, really hard to follow if you eat a lot of nuts. Regardless, even if you eat quite a bit of fish, it is hard to keep the balance, especially if their inflammatory markers are already elevated anyway, which is usually the case with cancer patients.
Now, what are you doing with the protein sources to keep it on kind of the minimum?
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, it's you can't go too high on the protein because of gluconeogenesis. So, ketogenic diet aims to have glucose levels at a very low, steady level. So, if you overdo it on protein, that gets converted into glucose as well. So, it's very important to educate. I always educate my clients very, very in detail about around the protein and how much they can have. So I do include meat in my type of ketogenic diet, especially lamb, which is very easily accessible. We're very fortunate here in Ireland. It's easy and it's good value as well. So I do think it can be very beneficial for many nutrients, L-carnitine, B vitamins, CLA. So I do include lamb as a source of protein, and also oily fish, very much so, and eggs for people who can tolerate them, and some chicken, but not too much chicken either. So I always give them lists, give my clients lists of how much protein. So, for instance, how much protein do you find in lamb? So how much do you have to eat to get 10 grams of protein, and then just break it down for each individual meal.
Well, lamb is really nutritionally dense as well. It has a high affinity of a CoQ10 in there too. I think I
Exactly. Yeah.
consider one of the best meat sources you can possibly eat out there is lamb.
Lamb liver.
Yeah, lamb liver. That's
Exactly.
right.
Yeah.
Delicatessen.
Yeah. 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 It's a brilliant food, and in my ebook, I've got a recipe for lamb liver pate. And so I have some good feedback on that people seem to really like it who can't possibly otherwise get
Oh,
any liver
who
down.
doesn't like
Yeah.
pate? What? Liver pate? I grew up eating that. That stuff's awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
But that's a problem,
It's
though. Like
brilliant.
in
Yeah.
Europe, like people look at me kind of like cross-eyed when I tell them like, what I'm about to say. I'm sorry if I offend some people, but in Europe, you can go to restaurants and they'll serve you liver pate with lamb's brains on a very high budget. I'm talking about $200 euros for some of these meals. I repeat, liver
Wow.
pate with lamb's brain is costing you $200 euro. But why? It's in the culture in Europe, and over here they look kind of like tabooish. Oh my God, you're eating that. Well, in reality, it's super healthy for you.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. And it's there's no problem if it's good quality. Obviously, I always buy organic lamb liver, and I wouldn't buy the supermarket stuff, although it's readily available here. But I would be very careful with non-organic lamb liver.
What's your
Yeah.
take on bone broth?
Bone broth, yeah, brilliant. The thing is, it can or it does contain quite a bit of glutamine, and again, there's a bit of controversy around glutamine for cancer patients.
But not all cancers. They're still not really definite on which cancers
Exactly.
are being actually fed by glutamine cycles.
Exactly, yeah, yeah. So, but I still, as long as we don't know for definite, I'm just being a little bit cautious. So I wouldn't say lash it in, but it's definitely extremely helpful in the initial stages when going from the glucose burning mode into ketone burning mode. So going into the transition, the keto flu can be pretty nasty. So that's basically when you get all the symptoms of hypoglycemia, or you can get headaches, you can get the shakes and
Oh,
shivers,
I got
flu-like.
one symptom for you. The symptom is "I'm going to kill you" symptom. When people staring at me, like, "I got no sugar. Give me my sugar."
Exactly, yeah,
It's insane,
yeah,
absolutely
yeah,
insane. But that's why I think for some people, and I've talked to Dr. Dominic D'Agostino about this. My other good friend, Dr. David Jockers, about this, who also deals with cancer and ketogenic diets. Is some people should slowly kind of wean into it instead of
yeah,
kind of going head on. It all
yeah,
depends on how they're kind of hardwired, because it's kind of, I always give the analogy, if you're driving an 18-wheeler truck that's full of sugar, it's kind of hard to just stop the truck all at once, right? You got to gear down slowly and then get into the rhythm of things.
yeah, definitely. And what I also do, and I find that absolutely fascinating. The other day I had a client who she just couldn't go into ketosis, and she really did everything right. And we did some more tests. We tested her thyroid, and not just the standard TSH, and all
You
the
did the full thyroid, T3, reverse T3, total T4.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. And it turned out that she basically had loads of reverse T3 and hardly
Mm.
any free. So she basically, it's the cortisol as well that keeps her in that state, and that she can't make the conversion to the free
Now, the question
T3.
is why the cortisol?
So
Was it like dysbiosis, parasite infection, viral load?
exactly, exactly. It could be. I mean, she is going through a lot of stress at the moment. They just found metastasis, so that's just a very very stressful period. Again in her life, so it could be just that, but that's what we have to investigate now. So I say, okay, no, just don't even think about ketogenic diet at the moment. Eat mainly starchy vegetables as a source of carbohydrates. Still don't overdo it, obviously, but you can't at the moment go into nutritional ketosis. So it's quite a bit of detective work sometimes, and you know it well, the functional medicine. I work very much with the functional medicine model as well. So I don't just I don't do the ketogenic diet at any price. As you say, it doesn't suit everybody, and some people need to ease into it over a long period of time. And the more advanced the disease is as well, the harder it is going into ketosis, the more stressed somebody is. So addressing stress levels initially is hugely important. And just also age can be a big factor. So there's a lot of things playing into, a lot of factors influencing whether somebody can actually do the diet or not.
Now, in the ketogenic world, everybody keeps on talking about healthy fats and then like lowering down your protein, but we really don't focus on certain vegetables. What's your take on what would you consider the best veggies in a ketogenic diet, and certain veggies you'd be like, for now, don't eat them?
Yeah, I mean, I would recommend green leafy vegetables for many reasons. Kale would be one of my favorites, and also some spinach. Again, I say always just really don't overdo it. The whole folic acid subject can be can be critical as well, which isn't quite. I think from an epigenetic point of view. Folic acid can be a problem, but again, research is, I think, just not quite far enough. But there are trials that show that some cancer patients, they can get worse.
One thing with folic acid, though, it's interesting, though. It depends on where you're viewing it as a nutrient. For example, let's just talk about kale, which has a good amount of it, right?
Yeah.
If I cook it to a certain degree, the nutrient actually disperses. The actual affinity for the folic acid is diminished. So then you always have to wonder, well, how are you actually consuming the folic acid? Are you eating raw kale? Are you steaming kale? Or are you stir frying? I don't know what you're doing, right? There's so many different ways to cook food.
Yeah, definitely. Cooking is a huge thing, and it can change the action of nutrients big time. Yeah. So, for instance, in tomatoes, lycopene. So you only get it when you cook them. And the folic acid, it is. Obviously, it's very much dependent then as well how you absorb it or not, and that can be a problem. So it's a very individual thing. So, but anyway, the green leafy veg, very important also to avoid constipation, and then all the brassicas, especially broccoli. Cauliflower has a bit more carbs than broccoli generally, and but they would be, from an indole 3-carbinol point of view. So for breast cancer patients, that would be a big thing. So it depends a bit on the cancer type, obviously, again, in terms of the vegetables. There's good evidence for some vegetables for different cancer types. So what I sometimes recommend staying away from is the nightshades. So not overdoing it on them, especially, so that would be the peppers, the aubergines, eggplants, and tomatoes, so these would be the main ones, just to be aware that they can be inflammatory. I mean, some patients with rheumatoid arthritis, for instance, they really get worse. So
even myself, like, this is the funny thing though. I had autoimmune, and anytime I kind of deviate, it flares up.
Right. Now,
when I have tomatoes, I'll break out on my back. I notice right away. Any nightshades with me personally, I don't do well. However, this is where that weird line comes into place. When I cook the living bejesus out of any nightshades, symptoms disappear.
Yeah.
They're gone. But I mean, I have to cook them, extremely cook them.
Yeah. Just over a long period of time at low temperature.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So that would be sort of my, the main thing. I mean, there's loads of seasonal vegetables like asparagus. I've just bought the first bunch of asparagus today, so they would be brilliant as well. Very low carb, and so they really are brilliant for liver support as well. So there's I think it's a good thing to go through the different vegetables and see what action they have and what they're mainly good for. And obviously there's the whole allium side as well, the garlic and all those, the onions. They for the quercetin, the red onions, they are brilliant as well, but they're quite carby, so bearing that in mind. So now, it is.
What's your take though on the whole carb situation? Like, some people say under 100, some people have been talking about like under 30. Have you found a sweet number, or is pretty much in your case a whole individualized base, and let's just do glucometer and figure out what's what?
Yeah, totally. It's so individual. And also what I find very interesting is I've been doing following the diet now. It's more than 1.5 years. And I noticed that initially I had to be very, very strict. Otherwise, I was thrown straight out of ketosis with just a little bit of, say, a quarter of a date. That would pretty
Wow.
much do it. Oh yeah, I was just so sensitive. I think I was quite insulin resistant, or I was always a very carby person. I used to do a lot of endurance sports, triathlons. I lived on pasta pretty much
Mhm.
before I started studying nutrition, and pasta and vegetables. And so I was very, very sensitive initially. So I had to be careful not to overdo it on anything. And now I notice that I can even sometimes have a little bit of sweet potato, which is a total no-no initially. And yeah, just things that would have definitely thrown me out of ketosis a year ago. I can eat them now, and it doesn't. My blood sugars just they stay stable.
What's your take
So
on fermented foods like sauerkraut?
yeah, yeah, I do use them as well. It depends a bit again. If somebody is very histamine sensitive, for
Yeah.
instance, there's certain fermented foods they have to just keep an eye on and see how they react. But yeah, I'm a big fan of fermented foods. I do make my own kefir as well, water kefir, but I unfortunately can't have it because
Have
that
you
would
tried
would
coconut kefir?
I did try it, but not for long enough, and it didn't turn out very well. So I have to give it another go. Yeah, because at the moment I just have the water kefir grains, and I just make it for the family. But I myself, I don't have any at the moment. I do have sauerkraut, and yeah, that would be the main food for me. Or sometimes I have a little bit of miso soup as well.
Nice. Have you found certain supplements that really help you out to achieve certain ketotic states?
Um, no, actually, not so far. I mean, I use if you I don't know if you can consider it as a supplement, but MCT oil and coconut oil that definitely helps. Um, I know Dominic and Tom they do a lot of research into ketone esters,
Oh yes, the
but
keto salts. Yeah.
yeah, but we're just not. I was sort of considering buying them, but I'm in such good ketosis now most of the time. Even in the morning when
How
I
many
get up,
millimolars are you sitting around?
I'm usually around 3.5. Sort of that's
That's
between
good.
three and
Yeah.
four. Yeah. Whenever I measure, that's the blood ketones, and the urine seem to be pretty similar. Yeah. So I probably measure now once a week. Initially, I was doing a lot more, obviously, and but now it's sort of once a week that I measure the ketones.
Now, what's your take on this? We really don't know long term, not consequences, not in a bad way, but positive or negative consequences with a ketogenic diet on cancer. Do you think that this is how you're going to have to eat for the rest of your life, or do you see any like merit in going in and out of ketosis, maybe being in ketosis for like 6 months of the year, then kind of like stimulating more insulin? And I'm just giving an example because they're in Ireland, say summer versus winter. Just forget the other
Mm.
seasons, just summer versus winter. Maybe summertime, you're out of ketosis for a little bit, depending on the degree. And then wintertime, you're back into it. Do you see that having any beneficial role in people with cancer at the moment?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I constantly research and think about it. So how, for me personally, obviously as well, how long am I going to do this? Or people always ask me, sort of, how long are you going to do this weird diet? And yeah, some people they're just, it is funny, yeah, the reactions I get, but um, I guess everybody sees the results. I mean, people have seen me go through treatment, and when they say, look, why do you still do this? I was, oh, well, if I have the choice between having a plaque stitched to my eye and sticking to a diet, I mean, it's for me, it's a total no brainer. I've got two small kids as well. I just have to do everything to be well. And if it's sticking to a diet, that's the least effort, really for me. And I find it very enjoyable. But I do know when I, for instance, travel, it can be more challenging. And so I always look for ways of maybe down the line I might be able to just loosen up a little bit, but because I'm so keto adapted as well, I guess it'll be easier. But I think, yeah, definitely the cyclical keto, as they call it, yeah, cycling in and out of ketosis will probably be the way for me. But I will never ever, I'd say I will never ever go beyond 60 grams of carbs a day. I just can't see it. It just doesn't suit me. I think the way I eat now, it suits me perfectly. And in the near future, as long as everything is stable as well and my tumor keeps shrinking, I'm not going to rock the boat. But down the line, definitely, yeah.
So have you been biohacking yourself, like stage by stage, actually following your markers from, like, say, organic acids or cancer markers?
I don't have any. There are no particular cancer markers they do for myself. They just regularly do sort of the standard tests, the liver markers as well, inflammatory markers. I do a lot myself, and I have a doctor here in Dublin who is Dr. Stewart, who is brilliant. He sees a lot of cancer patients, and so I'm just step by step now, basically uncovering my biochemical imbalances. I just did a heavy metal detox.
Or was it did you get the heavy metal testing from the hair or the urine?
I did the urine, the
Okay.
DMSA challenge, yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So, and I'm full of mercury, lead, nickel, and copper. So, that's what I'm working on at the moment. I'm chelating.
See, that's another thing, though, too. You brought on a really good point. I just had a guest, Jeff Dardia. He's in the special forces in the army.
Mm-hmm.
And talking about cancer as well and everything like that, is a lot of these cancers today, they're brought on by heavy metal toxicity through, you know, being affected by lead, by mercury. And then one has to then stop and think about, wait a second, I understand some people are more exposed to heavy metals than others. But at the end of the day, we are all exposed to metals in some shape or form. The question then becomes is, why isn't our liver and our immune system actually chelating, as you would say, out? Like, it's coming in, why aren't we eliminating it out? And that's the $1 million question.
Yeah, exactly. And I do feel it, for me at least, and I see it with a lot of cancer patients in clinic, digestion has a lot to answer for as well. So if your digestion is compromised, your metallothionein tends to be low. So that's basically going around your body like a hoover, hoovering up heavy metals. And in my case now, clearly I'd say that was compromised big time. And my liver is, and I think it's in the family, my liver is just not the best. And it's not detoxifying.
Have you done a genetic SNP profile on yourself?
That's the next step. Yeah, that's what I'm planning to do. Once I'm done with the heavy metals and got rid of those, I have to do another test, and it'll probably go towards that. Yeah, because I've got a huge predisposition. 3 of my grandparents had cancer. One of them had liver cancer. So it's very important for me to know where I stand there. Exactly.
That's a good one too. And even doing, I love this one. And I recently started utilizing it about 1.5 years ago because of a good friend of mine, Dr. Tim Jackson, the PCR genetic stool analysis.
Yeah. So that's I actually have never done one on myself. I do it with clients regularly, and just to check out. I know for a fact that I have dysbiosis, and I know it's much better, and I know I probably had leaky gut as well. But I do think with the ketogenic diet, and I did a good gut healing program as well, that has improved big time. So I just probably need to address my my adrenals as well. But yeah, the digestive part, and there's a doctor, a professor in Switzerland, Professor Rao in Paracelsus Clinic. It's one of the well-respected integrative clinics, and he said if anybody can show me a CDSA, so a stool analysis of a cancer patient, and the cancer patient doesn't have dysbiosis, he or she gets free treatment. He said it's just
because it makes sense. Because what is it at the end of the day? 100 trillion bacterial cells to 10 trillion human somatic cells. 10 to 1 ratio.
Yeah. So it's very, very common, and it's always one of the first things I address, especially obviously radio and chemo does a lot of damage on top of everything, but they all have, most of my clients, they come in and they have a history of lifelong constipation. They say as long as I can remember, I've been constipated, and that's, I'd say, in about 85% of my clients, that's one of the biggest issues. And
have you considered doing hyperbaric oxygen therapy?
Yeah, definitely. I even went for a trial. The only thing is the cost. It is pricey in Ireland. It depends a bit where you live. I know in the UK it's a bit better, and here in Ireland it would have been quite expensive. I did a trial session. And but for my type of cancer now, the evidence isn't as compelling as it would be for others. Mind you, I do have a bit of macular degeneration still left. I had radiotherapy the last time in 2010, and they told me at the time I would be blind within 12 to 18 months. But my vision is near perfect now. It's just a bit of macular degeneration. And for that, it would be very beneficial. So I am considering it in conjunction with the ketogenic diet, just mainly for the macular degeneration.
Have you done any omega-3 to your fatty acid ratio testing?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did the Holman test. Yeah, and I was slightly, I think 46 to 54 was my ratio. Yeah, so a little bit more omega-6s, but that's when I was big into the nuts. So I believe that's much better now. And I've been a lot more restrictive with my omega-6s. So I'm pretty sure that's over 50 now. I'm going to do a retest soon. Yeah.
Have you done any like specialized supplements for omega-3s? For example, even like pharmaceutical grade DHA?
I love the Nordic Naturals. I usually take the cod liver oil because of the vitamin A and E and D as well, because I find it very helpful for the gut healing as well. But the ultimate omega is great as well, with a bit of GLA. GLA is the only the porridge oil is the only omega-6 that I think makes a lot of sense. But apart from that, yeah. So these two would be my favorite omega-3s, yeah, or omega mixes, yeah.
Now, besides the ketogenic diet and the supplements, which is obviously super important when it comes to healing the gut, healing the body, and trying to at least mitigate cancer and stop the metastasis of cancer, what have you done in your environment to change your habits and lifestyle?
Oh, just really become much more aware of environmental toxins, and so what I put on my body as well. I mean, I've never been somebody who used makeup or creams or stuff, but I did use just the ordinary shampoos and creams and all of that. So I've changed all this, and just to have really clean products. And I do eat a lot more organic. I do believe in in the whole. I mean, I know it's very debatable whether it's worth eating organic or not.
How's it debatable? One food crop gets sprayed with herbicides, pesticides. The other doesn't. What am I debating here?
Yeah, well, it's.
But what are they standing on? What, the money?
No, they basically say there's not more nutrients.
Well, who's they?
I always say it's not the question.
Who's they? The other people benefiting from selling the crap food?
Yeah, exactly. Well, no, there was very recently on RTE, which is the national TV here in Ireland, there was a big debate, and just a lot of people say no, organic is not worth it, and it's not worth the extra money, and there's not more nutrients. And I always say it's not the question of nutrients, it is what exactly, as you say, what they put on food, and especially I see it with clients. I have some clients who are super sensitive, and if they eat food that isn't fresh, even vegetables that are not organic, they actually have a reaction to the point that they have to throw up. So for me, that's for people who are really sensitive in terms of toxicity were very, very toxic. They definitely feel the difference, and they know what is organic fresh food and what is not.
This is my beef with like the whole nutritional science world, and actually not for all of them, you know, for a very small category of them. When we're viewing like nutrients, for example, just talking about like vitamins and minerals, you know, the body's much more complex. Obviously, we're an ecosystem of bacteria. So if you're looking at, say, here, I'll give a random example, asparagus or broccoli or a carrot, you know, these vegetables and these plants, they have a symbiotic relationship with the soil. You know, you have I think they're pronounced mycorrhizae. It's like a fungi. It actually spews acid, you know, and it actually melts. It melts. It pretty much disintegrates the minerals inside the soil and gives it to the plant. And in return, it gets glucose, right? This isn't taken into consideration when comparing, say, organic versus commercial, right? What's happening to the mycorrhizae? What's happening to the bacteria when it's sprayed with chemicals and it's living in soil that's toxic? We don't know that.
Yeah, and that's exactly the point with sylvestros as well. Sylvestros only occur in organic produce. They don't exist in non-organic fruits and vegetables because they don't have to defend themselves. So basically, and sylvestros have some good clinical evidence, mostly case study based. I did take them as well, and I found them great initially. When I started a ketogenic diet, actually, I took sylvestros, really high doses for about 3 months, and I still take them once a year for a certain amount of time. That's the thing with supplements, I think, and I learn a lot from my colleague Patricia Peach. She is a former oncology nurse. She's based in the UK. Cancer Options is her business, and she knows an awful lot about supplements. And she said cancer cells are so clever, and never just take a supplement forever. Just keep changing yourself. It's like a chemotherapy. Cancer cells become resistant very, very quickly, and especially if there's breaks.
It's like anything in life. Like if you're trying to kill somebody, they're gonna fight back. It's plain and simple, right? And if you keep on attacking your enemy with the same strategy in war,
tactics,
you're gonna become smart. That okay, he keeps on doing the same thing. Well, I'm just gonna do that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's, I think that's a very important point. And I sometimes, I think people are, especially cancer patients who take the same supplements day in, day out, year in, year out. It's not the best.
I think the delivery method matters as well. Like a lot of people think I'm just going to take oral supplement. Well, what's guaranteeing you getting in the cell, right? Is it in a fat soluble form? Is it, liposomal? Is it transdermal? Is it time release? Exactly. These are all very important questions we should be asking, because it's not what you take, it's what you assimilate and absorb that matters.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a fascinating area, the whole area of supplements, and I read and learn a lot about them as I go along. Yeah. So
what's your take on IV therapy for certain cancer patients in the supplement world, like some certain, I don't know, like high vitamin C or some magnesium?
Yeah. I mean, as I said, the doctor I mentioned earlier, Dr. Stewart, he does IV treatment, so IV vitamin C, and he puts bicarbonate in there as well. He does IV glutathione, and for example, at the moment, I have one client who she doesn't want to go the orthodox route. She did have her tumor removed, so she had surgery. But they suggested then she has chemo afterwards, and she refused. She's 70. She says, if I live, I want to have a good quality of life, and I don't want to go through chemo. And so she is she's going the alternative route, and the oncologist, they basically signed her off the hospital. So she is doing the very high dose intravenous vitamin C. So she's doing 75 to 100 grams at the moment. And at that dose, there's a lot of research coming out that it can have similar effects to chemotherapy. So it's very interesting how vitamin C changes from being an antioxidant.
It does. Well, it's the biggest contributor to increasing glutathione. Have you played around with N-acetylcysteine, one of the precursors to glutathione?
Yeah, I did take it, and Not at the moment. At the moment, I'm taking another liver support ALA because I'm on LDN, low dose naltrexone as well.
Mm-hmm.
I started low dose naltrexone last November, and it seems to be working really well in conjunction with the ketogenic diet. It doesn't affect me at all, and it's a fascinating drug. I mean, it's a prescription drug, and I find it in terms of the strengthening the immune system. So you basically it blocks your opioid receptors for 2 hours at night, so that you naturally produce more endorphins during the day, and therefore just modulate the immune system. And I definitely needed that, and I did feel this winter I was a lot stronger than the previous winters, that I didn't pick up each and every bug that was going around. So it does seem to do something for my immune system. So it'll be interesting to see in the long term. So I take ALA at the moment and no more NAC.
Alpha lipoic acid, you mean ALA?
Yeah, exactly.
Are you taking, what form are you taking? The R alpha lipoic acid or just alpha lipoic acid?
At the moment, just the alpha lipoic acid, but I'm planning to take the oral lipoic acid there's one with mixed with turmeric as well. And so that's a really good one. So again, I don't always take the same of one supplement. I change between brands, and just the going to the oral lipoic acid next. When I'm finished with this one here.
Cool. Well, this brings me to the final segment of the show, the Optimal Health Warrior question.
Yeah.
If you had 1 second and only one answer to give, what would be your answer to the number one optimal health tip you can give somebody?
Reduce stress, I say. I think I just see every single cancer patient, including me, they have gone through a lot of stress or trauma or anything that hasn't been dealt with, hasn't been managed. And it's not that stress is bad, it's just that some people need to learn to manage stress. And I think it's such an important skill to have for health. Definitely.
I agree 100%. Patricia, thank you so much for coming on the Optimal Health Show. Where can people find more information about you?
I've got a website, www.nutritionchoices.ie, and I'm planning to launch a new website fairly soon. I'm doing a course at the moment to set up a website where I really want to focus on a lot of aspects for nutrition and cancer, and also specifically for the ketogenic diet, where people will find a lot of really practical information and research-based information.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Patricia, and have an amazing day.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, Amir. It's great to talk to you. Thanks. Take care.